Hi there guys, Miss you back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about this new series that I'm gonna do, which is that in preparation for Avengers Doomsday, which is coming closer. I am going to rewatch all the MCU stuff, which is a lot. And it's all the fully canon stuff or other stuff, which is essentially which is at points kind of essential and we call them MCU stuff. Whatever. I'll be clarifying this at the start of this video. Then I'll be getting on to the review, right? So, just clarifying everything, fully canon stuff. That means no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one takes, this is only confirmed canon stuff, so, no one takes, no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., no, the Peggy Carter show, I don't even know what it's called, but yeah, none of that, all the movies, all the shows, including the Netflix stuff, because it's fully canon, and I'm gonna include in What If. Also, I'm not going to be doing episodes, I'm going to be doing season reviews. So I'm going to be including What If. It's going to be in order of when they came out. So yeah. So What If is included, and so is Deadpool, Wolverine, and Fantastic Four first stuff, even though they're not really MCU. I mean, because they don't take place in the MCU, but whatever. I haven't seen them all. I've seen all the movies at least, but I haven't seen I haven't seen all the What If episodes. I've seen a bunch of them, I haven't seen them all, and I haven't seen all the shows, specifically multiple seasons of the shows and all that stuff. But yeah, so yeah, it's all in preparation for Avengers Doomsday, because yeah, I mean, that's coming closer, obviously. I haven't seen Avatar yet, but I have seen the leaked trailer. So yeah, this is everything with brand new day. I guess potentially there's a chance that, maybe I could make out all the reviews before then leading into my review for that movie being my review for this entire rewatch. But more than likely it will be where I do two reviews, which could give me the hindsight, recency bias, all that stuff. So yeah, anyways, yeah. Now that I cleared that up out of the way, just getting on my review for the first Iron Man, and okay, so just starting off with my past thing. I didn't think I liked this movie. Okay, because I hadn't seen it in years, and I just remember it being pretty boring. But rewatching it from in years, I really, really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was enjoyable and great, down to earth. Still criticisms, obviously. But yeah, just getting on into the positives, obviously. Robert Downey Jr. is literally perfect for the Iron Man role. I mean, yeah, he's just great in the role. I think all the acting overall is great. And yeah, I think that this was a really good setup for the MCU, because this smaller movie, it's like small, similar like Spider-Man. You know how the first Spider-Man was very, kind of small and contained, because that's kind of what you need to set up this entire big franchise. You don't really need it nowadays. Like, for example, James Gunn, for really his first 100% thing, like, yeah, Creature Commandos came up before, and obviously there was the loose cannon stuff for the DCU, but like his true first big launch into the DCU, that was a humongous movie, right? I mean, if you compare them, they are completely different films. Like, that one shot him into a universe where superheroes have always existed for 3 centuries. This one, yeah, obviously, Captain America, they retcon that, and then there's Ant-Man and all this other stuff, which they retcon in later, but, like, it's still a relatively niche thing, and it's not as big. Like, the DCU just has a bunch of superheroes around. Clark Kent already is Superman, I mean, Luthor already hates him, there's all this other completely crazy stuff. I mean, in the first movie, they introduced the pocket dimensions, Green Lanterns, the Hawks, and, Mr. Terrific, and all these different characters, the Justice Gang, all this Krypton lore and stuff, Luthor and his entire corporation and stuff, the pocket dimensions, and Metamorpho, and a green little alien baby that isn't even in the comics, with a war between fictional countries. But this one it's a lot smaller, and that's a lot more respectable, because, nowadays, I mean, it might be seen as slow. Like I said, I thought it was boring as a kid, but, it's entertaining. It's just a fun movie to watch, and I really like the way they go about him making the Iron Man suit, right? because obviously it would be easy for them to just be like, oh, he's made the Iron Man suit. They would be easy for them not to show him making the Iron Man suit and just focus on action scenes within the Iron Man suit. But no, this movie really takes its time, which I really appreciate and really cool. I mean, not even only for the first Iron Man suit, because obviously that makes sense that it'd do for that. But with him designing all the new stuff, they don't just jump cut to him having the suit. They have, there's a little flaws. This is an odd description, but the only way I could describe it is like very similar to how, like, it's very similar to how a biopic kind of works, like an actual real. They almost make this movie as if it were like a real life film, like these events did actually happen. Tony Stark is this real person. That's how they make this movie. They make it almost like The Social Network. They show all the little variables, and they focus a long time on him making this suit, and they focus on almost as if it was real tech. And I found that very interesting and very cool that they did that. That does come some caveats because one thing that I felt was a little flawed was that the second half is sort of rushed. The first half, it really takes its time, and you see him slowly build the suit and then build the other suit, and that's why I said it was really like the first 2/3, really kind of like Act 1 and Act 2, but not really, because this isn't really Act 3 only, but it's really the 2/3. The first 2/3, you see him build the normal suit and that more of a montage, but then the real suit that he'll use, you see him build that, and you see him why he put all the colors on him. Very similar to like a biopic sort of thing, almost as if Tony Stark were a real person, which I found really interesting. Obviously, like I said, and like the little like imperfections with Mark II and him having to fix that for Mark III, and all this different stuff. It's very interesting, the first 2/3, and then when you get onto the last third, it gets a little rushed because I think that they really should have made Obadiah Stane evil from the get-go, because it's so obvious that he's evil, right? Like, it's just deliberately obvious that Obadiah Stane is an evil and bad person, right? Like, you could kind of tell that this entire movie that he's the villain, right? That he's not a good guy, he's not a good person. No. He's gonna be the villain, and without a clear villain, say besides some terrorists, which we've seen Iron Man smoke terrorists in his little shitty suit, right? Right, there is no shot that those guys are made. It's quite obvious him, and then obviously the comic fans are like, yeah, he's a villain of the comics, so he's quite obviously going to be the main villain here, and they're focusing a lot on him. Any person could see that he's the main villain, and although I really like Jeff Bridges' performance as it, I think that if they had made it clear that he was evil from the get-go, if we had seen him coordinating the thing with Tony Stark, I think it would have made it a whole lot more interesting. Rather than what we actually got, which is that it kind of takes, which that we only find out like at the end of like at the around like the end of like the second third, which is what I'm calling, not acts, thirds, whatever. But yeah, it's really stupid that they decided to do that instead of the more normal approach, just what they should have done, making the villain from the start. I'm fine, 100% fine with twist villains, but as like just like if they had to just made this villain a little bit more from the get-go, it would have been a little bit more obvious. And second off, I think that maybe they should have added another villain. Because first off, Iron Man is a big big villain selection, okay, and they really only use 2 of his villains as physical threats in this movie. They really in these 3 movies, he really only has like 2 villains. I don't think Aldrich Killian is a character from the comics, but he might be, whatever. If he is, he's very unknown. They really only use like 3 of them as actual villains, because obviously Justin Hammer, he's not a physical threat, but he's a character, and he's in there, and he's a villain, and he's an antagonist. So yeah, whatever, right? But what I'm talking about here is that it's kind of what I'm talking about here is that like if they had to put in like one more villain, like I don't know, like maybe like the Russian guy, like Crims and Dynamo, I think his name is. If they had him be here, that could be set up for the sequel with his son being Whiplash, because it's the same character's name, and obviously they create a whole new origin story. It would be a lot easier for them to just cut out that new origin story about how, this character, and then them just throwing away the potential for that character actually being the villain, and instead just jumping right into, Tony Stark killed my father, now I want revenge, right? Instead of the whole other revenge subplot that he has in the second film. So I think that it would just be a lot more interesting and a lot better for the trilogy overall if ultimately he was a villain. And obviously they do have a secondary villain, but still, like, that little guy, like, he didn't pose a threat, And the Templars are just there to, like, okay, so they were there for the start to have to have that happen, to have him build a suit, which makes a lot of sense. Then they're just there as like a little mini boss fight, so he could just like easily kill some people, show his suit, have another action scene, so people don't get bored. And it's very much, repetitive, and we could still have that scene, but instead, here, what I'm proposing here is that we throw in him. He didn't create the exact arc reactor, so it still doesn't work for Obadiah Stane's technology, and that's why he would still need to have that entire subplot about him trying to create the arc reactor and then having to take it from Tony. So we could still have that happen, but instead here, so he didn't build it using a different form, but the pieces of the old suit are all reliant on the arc reactor, so that way Obadiah Stane still needs the arc reactor. Sorry, I had to pause the video for a second, and I lost my train of thought. So yeah, but if they had just had the Crimson Dynamo, I think his name is. It's wrong. Whatever. The point is, like, the Russian villain, if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Whatever. If they had him thrown in, just a lot of Fireman, Russian villains like Titanium Man and Unicorn, whatever. But you could have had them. You could have had one of them thrown in there too. I don't know. I don't even care. I mean, the Crimson Dynamo would be the ideal scenario because he's a cool character with cool powers. But if you really want to throw in Unicorn, Titanium Man, you could throw in these villains. There are a lot of villains out there. So yeah, it would just make sense a lot more. But whatever, ultimately, but yeah, the third act is rushed because you just find out that Obadiah Stane, not the third act, the third, what do I call it? Third half, I think. That doesn't make any sense. Whatever, the third part. I'm not gonna call it act part. Third part doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's really rushed because you just find out Obadiah Stane's the villain. People already knew that. Okay, he's trying to build the arc reactor. He's like, oh, I can't find the arc reactor. See, if we had established that previously from the start that he couldn't find the arc reactor, then then it wouldn't be a forced conflict just at the end. Quickly rushing and be like, oh, so we can't find the arc reactor. Okay, he has the arc reactor now. Right, just showing us a problem and then instantly giving us the solution to that problem, which is what we do in the movie. So yeah, it's like, oh, I don't know how to make the arc reactor, and the box of scrap scene, obviously, which it would just make sense if we had introduced that earlier in the movie, and then he kills people. He tries to kill Tony. Tony gets the arc reactor from the thing that Pepper made. Then Obadiah Stane gets in the suit, tries to kill Pepper. Tony fights him. Tony almost dies. Pepper kills Obadiah Stane, which would also kill Tony, but somehow miraculously Tony lives, which we don't even find out, by the way. Like, that's stupid. We don't even find out. We just got from him dead to suddenly he's just I think a month or a week later or something like that, and he's just completely fine. See, that's what I mean. The third part of this movie is really rushed. Then he's like, oh, I'm Iron Man, right? And then the post-credit scene. See, I really like this movie, but those are just flaws. Just make it quicker. Whatever. Ultimately, the post-credit scene, awesome. It's just set up this universe. It's teasing the Avengers. It is all very cool and great. And ultimately, yeah. But so yeah, ultimately, I really like this movie. Thought it was a great movie. There was obviously some negatives, but I thought it was a really great start to this universe and just an overall really great and fun movie. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and bye.